Hello, everyone. My name's Don Smith. I'm with SSI Consulting, and I am here today with Vermette, our HR specialist, and we're going to be talking about businesses reopening and employees coming back to work. So, hello, Anne.
Hi, Don. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks. So, if you're all set, Anne, we'll just jump right into it. The first question that we have here is, as restrictions ease up and employees are asked to come back to work, what should employers be doing?
Well, I think that when we first think about employees coming back to work is this new way of working. Of course, the priority is for any employee is that they feel safe. So making sure that we are able to communicate to the employees returning that there's safety protocols in place.
Okay. And do you anticipate any challenges with employees returning to work? I can imagine there'd probably be a few.
Well, I think that, these are unprecedented times. Really, there are going to be challenges no matter which way you look at it. For example, some employees will not want to return back to work for various reasons. It could be related, obviously, to COVID, and those list of reasons for a leave of absence can be related to childcare. It could be related to the fact that they might actually have COVID. It could be related to a family member that they need to take care of. It could also be related to the fact that they may be suffering from anxiety or are concerned for their safety in returning. So there are going to be a number of challenges when you have those conversations with your employees when you're calling them back to work.
Okay, so what happens if an employer calls an employee back to work and they advise they won't be returning?
So that's a really good question, Don, and it's one that I believe that I've had a lot of conversations with some of our clients. And that really the fact is this: if they don't want to come back to work because of the COVID related issues and safety, just as I kind of went through some examples, the thing is that we need to be able to document the reason why they're not going to return and put it in their employee file. But more importantly, we need to have that empathy and that understanding with the employee that you're having that communication with. So something like, I understand your perspective, and we're just going to document your file. In the meantime, we'd like to still keep our communication open. So there will be a number of challenges. I think that the key for communication is planning those conversations with employees. When you're planning those conversations, part of that process is to think of perhaps how the employee might be responding. So for example, if there are major safety protocols that the organization has put in place, maybe that should be part of that conversation to reassure the employee that there is safety protocols in place as it relates to COVID.
And so for employers that are calling employees back that were laid off, so I guess how would that process work?
Yeah, that's a really good example because, when some employers have actually been able to stay open, while employees have made a decision to stay home, other employers would have been a non-essential service and maybe considering opening now with some of the different changes that are happening in the provinces. Still the personal decision of whether or not an employee is able to return back to work, even if the employer has work available for them. So, just some examples I had mentioned earlier. The biggest thing is to make sure we're documenting that information in their file, but having that empathy with the employee to say, this is what the organization has done to reassure that you are safe in the environment. We're going to have an orientation maybe for employees when they come back, if there's a group that's going to be recalled. How are you going to ensure that social distancing is happening during that training period? And if employees still choose that they do not want to return because of some of those COVID-related requests and related to leave of absences. And we really need to make sure we're documenting that information, issuing the record of employment as it is required by law. Does that
Well,
answer your question, Don?
yeah, it does. And I'm just wondering if you have any final thoughts on this. And maybe because of the conversation that we had earlier, we could talk a little bit about, or you could talk a little about when employers are faced with a situation where they have an employee that doesn't want to come back. How, what should the mindset of the employer be?
Yeah, I mean, that again, that's a really, so many good questions that you have
Yeah.
for me today, Don. There is a little bit of a gray area. I mean, we do know that the government has insisted that, to protect the safety of all the employees and the safety of your employee that might have a COVID-related issue. They might be sick. They might have to take care of someone. They might have had to be outside of their province and need to be quarantined. There's quite a few, and you can reference the, of course, the federal government site on what that list is. And then there's a bit of a gray area of, if it's anxiety related, there is going to be employees that really do not want to come back to work because they fear for their safety and they have anxiety around that. Whether we're using the word anxiety or stress, I think some of the things to reassure employees when you're having those types of conversations could really be stuff like, well, I empathize with your situation. I understand. We have put these protocols in place. I think the message is, we have done everything we can on our safety side. We're communicating that, and we're following up with actions. And it's an open line communication with employees or health and safety committee members to always be looking at that. But I think ideally, the message is really clear when you plan how you're going to communicate, then follow through with that communication, and then document what you're doing. I mean, at the end of the day, the risk to an organization when an employee doesn't want to come back is that we need to document the file and that we've done everything on our end as an organization to the point of undue hardship to make sure that we have a safe workplace for those employees. And when those employees truly do not feel that they are ready to return because of other related issues to COVID, then we need to document that in their employee file and advise the employee, we're just making a note to the file. And we'd like to keep that line of communication open with you. So maybe there's an agreement with the employee that you give them a call back in a couple more weeks. I mean, the last thing that we want to do as an organization is discontinue communication with employees that are on leave. Because when they come back, there's also, under normal circumstances, when employees are on a leave, there's always a bit of anxiety when they return, regardless of the type of leave that they leave for. It could be a maternity leave. It could be a disability leave. When employees come back, there's always a bit of an anxiety.
Yeah. All right. Well, those are all the questions that I had. Do you have any other thoughts that you just wanted to close with?
I think that really my strongest message is if I were to provide any type of advice to any of my clients is plan, communicate, document, and just keep doing that, but to have some compassion and understanding for your employees. I mean, some of these employees are going to come back and they really have been isolated in their home for several weeks. It might even be the first time that they've actually left their home. So just keep that in mind.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Anne. Really appreciate that. And to our viewers, I would encourage you to submit any questions that you have to Anne or any of our other consultants in the comments section below. And please subscribe to our channel. Thanks and stay safe.